Welcome to Couch Time with Kevin Petersen. I'm your host, Jay Staples, along with Kevin Petersen.
Howdy ho, neighbor.
How are you? Man, I just feel so relaxed with you on the couch. It's just, kind of got a dad feel to it, just low key. Son, let's talk about addiction. So I love this.
I do too, man. I do too. It's Bert's over here chewing on his toes. It's just a good day,
Go over to Instagram, Kevin W. Petersen, the family coaching, chronichope.us, got all kinds of free resources. It's got Kevin's face on it, all kinds of videos. Facebook group, Chronic Hope, reach out to us to get in that family-only Chronic Hope Facebook group. And but we do this every Monday. We answer questions that are coming in. We got some really good, more on the parenting side of the questions. So it's really interesting. It's almost as if each week is a wave of kind of a normal theme or topic, which is really interesting to me. But keep it coming. We did have one, I think, that was watch the replay that put in a question. So if you're watching a replay, put in a question. We'll get to it next week. Do this every Monday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. if you're Kevin Petersen on the East Coast. So, alrighty. Let's do this.
Let's party.
I have heard different things on kratom. My son says if it's harmful, it would not be so easy to buy. Says he buys it over the counter at local convenience stores. Can you talk about kratom? I want to put this in with, let's just talk about I call them 7-Eleven kind of drug. I mean, so there was another question, much the same, with the issues with, if it's being sold at convenience stores and 7-Elevens and corner stores, it must be not harmful, right, Kevin?
By the way, in my day, we called them head shops.
Yes. I think that's what the kids still call them.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You can buy alcohol and cigarettes at 7-Eleven. And in some states, you can buy booze. So, if it's harmful, it wouldn't be easy to buy. Give me a break. 99% of the food. Have you ever looked at those hot dogs inside those places? Those things have been on there for like 3 or 4 years.
Don't say this. I had one today, so don't. I mean, I was in a rush. Don't. I'm feeling shame. All right, I'm just going to shut up.
Sorry. Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. I've definitely dealt with this a million times. That's nonsense. Let's just be clear. Your son is not an expert on drugs and alcohol and supplements, and so let's just skip past that. That's just not.
All right. It doesn't. Hey, if it's sold, it doesn't mean it's harm. I mean,
of course it's harmful.
Look up kratom. So.
Yeah, kratom is horrible. It's terrible. I don't mean skip past the question. Skip past that section of.
Oh, I thought
sorry,
you just.
Sorry. My bad.
Kevin Petersen just saying, you know what?
No. No, that's a valid question. I get this all the time.
I like Kevin with an edge.
Oh, I have an edge. Don't worry. So just because he buys it over the counter doesn't mean crap. Can we talk about kratom? Sure. It's bad. It's bad for you. It's an artificial. It's a synthetic drug, isn't it? I think it's synthetic.
Yeah.
And it mimics THC, and so there's nothing good about it. There's zero good about it. Okay. The CDC, the DEA, the FTC, nobody's like, hey, this stuff's great. This is all bad. So, what he's trying to do is help you understand that what's the big deal. I mean, let's be honest, 100 and something years ago, you could buy cocaine and heroin over the counter at most pharmacies. So stop with the nonsense and realize that it's bad for him. The answer is no. And next question. But great question.
Drinking doesn't have the same effect for me as it once did. I consider myself a daily drinker, but rarely get drunk or out of control. For the last month, drinking has made me feel dull and tired. Other than, she went on and says, it's no longer wants me out and about. It just wants me to go to bed.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. About I don't know, about a year before I stopped drinking with before my family well, let's say 6 months or a month or two before my family confronted me in 1990. My sister, and her boyfriend, now her husband, met me at the local English pub in Palo Alto, California, and reported back to my parents that in the hour that I was with them, I had about 8 drinks. And what she didn't know is that I had been drinking before there and smoked pot before I got there. And I continued all night. And so my point, and she's like, oh, and he's totally lucid. He's carrying on conversations. He's recalling stuff. He's playing darts and winning. He's completely on top of things. So let's be clear. I was definitely a daily drinker, but getting drunk, your body builds up a natural tolerance. So what's happening to you is that your body has got a higher resistance level and a higher tolerance level. And so in the last month, drinking has made me, at the end of my drinking, definitely the same thing. I had a really hard time getting drunk, yay, this is fun drunk. I would just get this certain, and like you put, dull and tired. That's exactly where I was headed, because that's where my body was toxic and had built up that level of tolerance. So that's where I would say, hey, you really need to quit drinking. And I really would medically. Okay. Let's just talk medically. You have reached a certain tolerance and toxicity level where your body has just accepted it. And that's bad. So I would really recommend that you talk to a medical professional and consider going to detox or getting help immediately and with getting yourself out of that environment, because I'm talking about, this is just out of my concern for your physical well-being. That's bad. That's all bad. So, and I get it. I totally get where you're coming from. It makes perfect sense to me. And by the way, daily drinking, binge drinking, it's always funny nowadays. We're like, well, I wasn't an alcoholic. I was a binge drinker. I'm like, okay, so let's define alcoholism. Alcoholism is once I start, I can't stop or I can't control it. So that would define binge drinking. That would define daily drinking. That would define morning drinking. That would define drinking alone. Alcoholism is a sort of a universal comment about the inability to control the amount you drink when you drink, and the ability to lose the power of choice. And that's when I read this, that's what I'm reading, is a physical inability to stop or control
it. Amen. My 16-year-old daughter is chasing older men. I'm a single mom. Her dad left a while back. She has started drinking and using drugs with these guys. I've never been able to give her a father figure. I know she's lost. It goes on to say, this is a mom that's feeling really guilty about, she's kind of lost control of her 16-year-old daughter, and it's kind of, she's looking for insights.
Yeah, I totally get it. I completely understand what she's saying. I definitely, when I was doing right out of grad school, when I was in child and family services and community mental health in Denver, I had a lot of single moms bringing their children to me, hoping I would pose as the dad. And I'm like, I'm a therapist. I'm going to see him every 2 weeks. I'm not here to be your kid's father or, be a father figure. That's not my responsibility, and I can't do that. So what I would say to mom is, let's start with the fact that she's making some poor choices around promiscuity and sex, which, by the way, is very much correlated to not having a relationship with her father, and then started drinking and using drugs. So it's time now to take action, because I don't want anything really bad to happen. When we take teenage girls and combine drugs and alcohol and sex, nothing good happens. And I'm just telling you that as a concerned, person, that there's just nothing positive that's going to come of that. So I think the sooner you can get her help, the better. And it may be the kind of help where she has to be removed from her environment. And I know that sounds drastic and severe and overwhelming. And I know this is pushing all your buttons of I have failed, I'm not doing a good job. And that, by the way, is something you need to get help with as well, because that's your responsibility to address your issues around where you're coming from, because we don't want those things to get impacted onto your daughter. And we want to get you guys, we want both of you to get help is what it comes down to. So let's get both of you help ASAP. And that can come in the community mental health center. It can come in a treatment program. It can come from someone like me or Jay. We can give you a list of people, no matter where you are in the country, that will be willing to help you. But you're going to, here's the thing. I know that you feel bad about this, so it's time to take action. And I mean, please take action ASAP, because I see nothing but like bad coming of this.
Yeah, and I'll go the other side of it. I mean, the men that's hanging around with 16, maybe she's lying about her age and so forth like that. And so I'm open to a lot of different things, but there just never seems to be, I could be generalizing here, but the older guys that are hanging out with 16-year-old drinking and I don't see a healthy father figure coming out of that. I'll just say that, or a healthy relationship. So
no, it's just and just for her protection alone, just for her physical safety.
Yeah. Is there a parenting style that is tied to substance-related issues? My husband and I don't drink, never pushed our church beliefs, yet I'm fearful our 15-year-old daughter is using drugs. Goes on by saying there's multiple lying, there's been just obvious use in the. So this is another case about it's not fearful, it's actually happening.
Yeah, totally. I get it. So the answer is yes. I would direct you to two things. One, I want you to read my book, Parenting the Addicted Child, and I want you to read it right away. It's you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Audible. If you send me an email, I'll send it to you for free on PDF. And I mean, like right now. Let's get that squared away. You've got to start, and I understand that this is not normal for you because it's not how you grew up. You don't drink. It's not your environment. I get it. So you're going to have to learn from someone that did grow up in that environment and is willing to share with you, here's what's happening. Here's what you need to fix it. And it means changing the system. And I'm happy to help you change the system. That's what Jay and I both do. That's our goal, is to help people change their family systems to get after this ASAP. I love the fact that you brought up church and faith, and it's wonderful. I think those are great resources. I want to let you know that I deal with people from that environment all the time, and they all say the same thing. Oh, we have a strong church, we have strong faith. And I'm like, that's great. That means nothing when we're dealing with addiction and mental health issues. I'm happy for you. That's lovely and that's wonderful. I'm a big believer in those things. Those things do not solve substance abuse and mental health. Professionals do. Those things can be a foundational part of the healing and the recovering process. But the number of people that I have talked to that are like, oh no, I'm going to go to church, and then they start drinking again. Because I don't fault the church. The people in the church are not educated on substance abuse and mental health issues, so they don't know. And it's like, go to the professionals, get help from the professionals, follow their direction. And I'm going to guarantee. Now, one of the things you might want to look for is something called Celebrate Recovery, which is a 12-step program based in Christianity. And a lot of the churches, depending on where you are in the country, have very active recovery environments. So I would say if that's your community and that's your network, great. Let's access that community and let's access that network. I want you guys to start looking at things like Al-Anon or any kind of codependency family. I mean, I really read my books. They're all about how to parent people that are struggling with these issues and how to use. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is the books that I want you to read, other than mine, are Parenting Teens with Love and Logic. and they're written by some guys in Golden, Colorado, and they're actually faith-based guys. So I think you might really dig it. But oh my God, they're just right on target about saying hold boundaries. Don't micromanage them. Don't try to smother them. Don't try to be on top of them 24/7. Just be really clear with them. Hey, I love you, but if this is how things are going to go, this is what we're going to do. And it's just a very logic-oriented environment. The other thing I would tell you that I see deeply in a lot of these faith-based environments is there's a lot of shame, because when you come forward and say, oh my gosh, my teenager's struggling, you can get a lot of negative feedback from the community, the faith-based community. It's like, oh, well, you're a terrible parent. What have you done wrong? Oh my God. If you get treated like that, you need to find another church. Okay. Because let me tell you something, this is going on in every single house in that church, or some sort of mental health issue or some sort of substance abuse issue. And so for them to point fingers at you and not be like, hey, let's band together and figure this out, that's crazy. Here's a thought. Jay and I were just talking about this earlier. I'm happy if you want to fly me into wherever you are. I'm happy to come in and speak to your church and spend like a Saturday outlining how to handle this. So that's something you can contact me about as well. And Jay will come too.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know if I like you yet. This edge, this Kevin with an edge on the couch. It's good for ratings. I don't know about, but it's incredible how this happens. Kevin is surprised. Kevin's reading these questions along with you guys, the viewer, and then he touches on it. And then lo and behold, we go right into our next question, which is, we are parents of a 23-year-old addict. We have always been honest when people have asked about our son, saying he has struggled with drugs. This has led to neighbors blaming our son for things. It's starting with these neighborhood apps, and anything goes missing. She goes on and on. This is a long email, but ultimately, hey, look out for the Wilsons or whatever. I'm not using the correct name, but and so this is a mom and dad that are just they're open about with their son struggling with drugs. Now we're feeling that what you call that shaming around others blaming, but I guarantee that subdivision has it all happening themselves. So you touched on it briefly in the previous question, but just help from mom and dad.
And we're getting some comments from my buddy Gina Richardson too, who I adore. She's a character, and
I did talk to her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's a huge advocate, and I just think she's the greatest. And she's got an adorable little dog that she wants to hook up with Bert. So we'll figure that part out later. Set him straight, atta girl. I don't know who Jill Dean is, but I'm definitely interested in talking to her. Okay. Here's the thing. If this is the kind of response that you get from your neighbors, where being vulnerable with them and being authentic with them and genuine and putting things on the table gets you, means that they're just going to start pointing fingers at you and calling you names and that sort of thing. These are not your friends, and you need to move on from these people. And I would say it's time for you to find new friends. This is just these are not good people to be around. I would also tell you that part of that reactionary process of, circling the wagons and pointing the finger probably means there's something going on in that house that they don't want to address, or it scares the hell out of them, or it's something from her childhood or their childhood or whatever. I guarantee you have stepped on a nerve, and you did the right thing by being honest and open and saying, hey, I just, here's what's going on in our house, and if I can help you, let me know, or if we can work together. I mean, if there's, but for the reaction of blaming you, you gotta let that be duck off a water's back, water off a duck's back. Just be like, yeah, whatever. You're just not the kind of people I want to engage with. Again, I want you to engage in the 12-step community for codependence, and I want you to and family issues. And you're going to find your people there. You're going to absolutely find your people there. So you're going to have to turn away from the haters. Haters are going to hate. You're going to have to go to the good people. And the good people are going to love you and take care of you and help you. Don't focus on the haters. And I get it. I totally get it. Oh, look at Gina. She gave us a crown. That's awesome. She's adorable.
You deserve a crown, but
my dentist said that. Yeah.
Alrighty, last one. My ex has been struggling for many years with his drinking. Our 11-year-old son rarely ever sees his dad and struggles with my ex's lying and non-committal attitude. I don't see anything changing. Here's a mom, I believe she's remarried or something, wants to getting to the point where 11-year-old son wants to sit him down and kind of just be open and honest about dad's issues and stuff, looking for guidance, insight as to whether or not sitting down, how should that talk go is what she's kind of looking for advice.
So how to talk to her? Well, there's two things here, right? Okay. The first thing is what does she do about her ex? The second thing is how do I address this with my kid? I want to start with the ex because the last thing she says is, I don't see anything changing. And I'm like, right. So what you need to do is be the change. You need to change the system. You need to start setting boundaries with this guy or this, I'm guessing it's a guy or the ex, and protecting your child and being really clear. Hey, here's the deal. If you can't be sober, don't bother. If you can't, pay your share, don't bother. And then the last part is if you can't be, on time, consistent, then I'd rather you didn't, because it's creating this buildup of an expectation for your son and you're not there. And it's killing him. So that's the first side of it. The second side of it is definitely start talking to your son about this and saying, hey, how do you feel about this? What are your thoughts about this? I would highly recommend something called the Betty Ford Children's Program. And I don't know where you are, but I know the one in Colorado, they do online still. I know they have one, I think, in Dallas. And I would highly recommend. It's a 4-day program put on by therapists that all they do is work with kids from 7 to 13. And all they do is spend the entire time engaging in this exact topic and teach the kids how to address their feelings, how to own their feelings, how to talk to the person that's struggling, and how to be clear and set boundaries. I mean, let me tell you something. This program they do miracles. And here's the thing, there is a price tag to it, but they never say no to anyone financially, period. So just be clear. If you're like, oh, we couldn't afford that. Yes, you can. They never say no. And I've gone to this program a number of times and observed. They allow therapists to come on Friday mornings and observe. I have never cried so hard in my life in watching these kids describe what it's like to live in this house. Hiding under the beds, hiding in the closets, the police coming and taking their parents, the police coming and taking them, what it's like to do visitations. And it's like, oh my God, so these kids this is such a great asset. And when I was in Denver, I used to send, any family I had, I was like, this is mandatory. You got to send your kids. You got to send your kids. And every time the kids would come back with like, oh, it changes them. It absolutely changes them. So I would highly recommend that for your son. And if you have struggles finding it, let JRI know. The one in Denver and Colorado, they do it once a month. It's a 4-day program. I know they do it online. I think they're back to doing it in person. And I know there's a couple other around the country. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I think they do an online version or something. I know the one in Dallas is no longer around, but I think if I had to guess, I think I've heard that they do an online version or something like that. But anyway, it's amazing. I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about it. I think it should be used by more families. I think there should be more resources and people like that. Dallas needs one. I'll just say that. So whatever it is, we would love to have it. So reach out to either one of us. We can point you in the right direction. I don't necessarily know, but this was a situation where the 11-year-old seemed to be taking it personal. So
kids do.
But
that's the nature of the beast. Kids always think it's their fault. I don't care how many times you explain it to them. For a kid, what they notice is that, the system has changed. Dad's not around. he's drunk, he's not showing up, he must not love me. I mean, that's just the process of an 11-year-old. I mean, that's normal, you know. And so let's engage with that and talk to them and be like, yeah, that's just not the case. And then let's give them some tools of how to help with that. So, and then you got to do the same thing. You got to set boundaries with this person. You got to hold them accountable, and you got to make it clear, hey, if you're not going to be a positive influence in this kid's life, then I just can't have you, you know. So,
well, amazing, Kevin. You did good. You earned your keep, and let's do this again next week. But keep the questions rolling in. No question is a dumb question. No one, even if you heard it, write in the questions. We'll get it answered, and we'll put it in front of Kevin. And just this is a hell of a free resource. Go into chronichope.us, talking about free resources. There's plenty out there. If you need any more guidance with books or just resources, reach out to either one of us, because not everything costs an arm and a leg. There's a lot of free resources, especially for family members. You're not alone. And if you're dealing with shame, if people are stuck, like Kevin said, it's happening everywhere. So if they're finger pointing, they're probably trying to push people away from their own problems. So keep the questions coming. But we'll do this again next week, Kevin. I appreciate it. And, we'll wait for another 7 days. We'll do this again.